This message was not supposed to reach you easily. Something was working against it reaching you. Something was actively interfering with the signal between you and this word, and you need to understand that before we go any further, because the fact that you are here, the fact that you opened this and stayed, is not a small thing. It is not a coincidence. Something tried to keep you busy this morning. Something tried to give you a reason to keep scrolling. Something tried to fill the time that was supposed to belong to this moment with something louder, something more immediately satisfying, something that required no stillness from you. And you stopped anyway. You stayed anyway. That single act of being still when everything around you was pulling for your movement was already recorded the moment you made it. Most people will scroll past a message like this. You did not, and I want you to understand that was not accidental. That was not a random choice your thumb made out of boredom. That was already decided. Before you picked up your device today, before you opened this, before you pressed play. The decision that you would be here for this moment had already been written into the sequence of your day. I arranged for this to reach you. The fact that something tried to stop it and failed only tells you how much what I am about to say matters, my child. My child, if your chest feels tight right now, if there is a weight sitting across your shoulders that you carried into this moment without fully naming it, I need you to know that is not a coincidence. That is your spirit recognizing before your mind has fully caught up that the voice you are hearing is the one that has always known you. That tightness is not anxiety. That is proof that what you are receiving is real. That is your body confirming what your spirit already knows. You can let your shoulders release. You can breathe. What I have come to say to you today does not require you to brace against it. It was meant to land softly on the parts of you that have been waiting the longest, beloved. I need to speak to you about where you have been, not to revisit the pain for the sake of rehearsing it. I am not bringing this forward to wound you again. I am bringing it forward because you have been carrying a story about that season that is not fully accurate. And an incomplete story is one of the heaviest things a chosen one can carry. The weight you feel is not just the weight of what happened to you, it is the weight of not fully understanding what it meant. And today, my child, I am going to give you the meaning, not in the vague language that leaves you still uncertain. In plain language, because you have earned the right to plain language. Type I felt it before I had words for it. If something in you recognized even before anyone named it, that the season you were in was different from what it appeared to be on the surface. There was a reset coming, not a soft adjustment, not a gentle course correction, a true reset, a lifting without limitation, a removal of every ceiling that had been placed over you, a complete end to the survival mode that had become so familiar you had almost stopped noticing you were living in it. You had been operating for a long time in a mode that was never meant to be permanent. The mode where you manage rather than thrive. The mode where you protect what you have rather than reach for what was prepared. The mode where getting through the day is the victory, and anything beyond that feels like ambition you cannot afford. You had been there long enough that part of you had begun to believe it was where you were meant to stay. My child, it was never where you were meant to stay. It was the tunnel. And the reason tunnels feel like they will never end is because, while you are inside them, you cannot see the opening, but the opening was always there, and I was always standing at the other end of it. I had been building toward this reset long before you knew it was coming. The decisions I was arranging in the background, the pieces I was moving into position, the people I was placing at the intersections of your path. None of it was visible to you in the season when you most needed reassurance. That is the nature of what I do in the period before a genuine elevation. My beloved, I do not announce it. I do not send a preview. I set the stage while you are still in the dark, and when the curtain rises, the scene that reveals itself is so complete, so specifically suited to what you were always built for, that the only word for it is this: it was prepared. Every piece of it, my child, including the hard parts, including the parts that looked like nothing, especially those. The green light I am speaking over your life today is not a suggestion. It is not a hope. It is a declaration. The season in which you had to shrink in order to survive is over. The season in which you had to make yourself smaller to fit the room you were placed in is over. The season in which you deferred your purpose while waiting for permission that was never going to come from the sources you were looking toward. That season is over, my child. What I am releasing over you now is the kind of green light that does not require approval from anyone currently in your life. It comes directly from the one who wrote the purpose into you before you were born, and it says, "Now move. Step into what was always yours, my beloved." My child, I need you to receive this now. The isolation you endured was not rejection. I need to say that again because I know the way it felt in the body, the way it felt to watch other people seem to move forward while you remained in a holding pattern, the way it felt to be removed from rooms that seemed like they were designed for you, to be passed over by the very people who should have recognized you, to be overlooked in seasons when you were delivering your most faithful and honest work. I know the way that felt, and I know the interpretation you almost settled for, that maybe you were not ready, that maybe you had misread your own calling, that maybe the sense you had of being built for something larger was a form of pride you needed to be corrected out of. That interpretation was wrong, my child, and the fact that it was wrong does not mean you were wrong to wrestle with it. The wrestling was part of the formation, but I need to set the record straight, and the record is this. The isolation was preparation. Every room that closed on you was a room I closed, because it was not the room. Every relationship that went quiet was a relationship I allowed to quiet, because it was not carrying the weight of your next season. Every season of standing apart from what seemed like the movement of blessing around you was a season I used to build inside you, something that cannot be built in company. The isolation was not a sign that I had turned away from you, beloved. It was a sign that I was doing something so specific and so important inside you that it required the kind of stillness that is only available in the absence of noise. Type, I know what I carry. If you have always sensed there was something in you that the people around you could not fully see, you were being prepared for leadership, my child. Not the leadership that requires an audience, the leadership that comes from having been through the fire and come out not destroyed but refined. The leaders who carry the most weight in the lives of others are not the ones who have had the easiest roads. They are the ones who have sat in the darkness long enough to know how to be a guide for others who are sitting in it now. The exile you endured was not a punishment, my beloved. It was curriculum. Every moment you were apart from what seemed like where the action was, I was teaching you something that the people in that action were not yet positioned to learn. You were being trained in the school of distance. And what you studied there, my child, is worth more than anything that could have been learned in the room you were not yet allowed to enter. I need you to hear this next part with your whole spirit, my child, because it addresses something that has lived in you quietly and without a name for a long time. There has been a silence in you that goes beyond introversion. There has been a pulling back that goes beyond wisdom about who to trust. You have carried things alone, not always because there was no one available to share them with, but because something in you has learned, through experience, that bringing what you carry into certain rooms costs more than it gives. You have learned to be quiet with your gifts. You have learned to measure out your depth in small portions in the presence of people who could not hold the full weight of what you were offering. You have learned to stand in the background of spaces where you were, in truth, the most prepared person in the room. And you have done this not out of false modesty, but because something in you recognized long before your mind had language for it, that not every room was worthy of what you carried. My child, I am not asking you to continue doing that. The season of standing in the background of rooms that were not built for you is over. The season of rationing your depth to fit the capacity of people who were not meant to receive the fullness of what I placed in you is over. You are being called out of the background now, not to announce yourself, not to demand recognition, but to step into the space that was always meant to have your name on it, to take up the room that was held open for you, beloved, to stop apologizing with your posture and your silence and your careful smallness for the size of what I built you to carry. This is the moment I call you out of the background, and I need you to step forward, my child. Type, I was faithful when no one saw. If you kept going in the seasons when there was no applause, no recognition, and no visible evidence that what you were doing was being recorded. For longer than you know, my beloved, there has been a record being kept. not in any system that human hands maintain. In the record that heaven holds, the one that does not require a password, the one that cannot be altered by any report filed against you, the one that does not expire or archive or lose information over time. Every faithful morning when you got up and carried the weight of your calling in silence, it is in the record. Every prayer you whispered when your mouth had no strength left, and the words barely made it past your lips, it is in the record. Every moment you chose to keep showing up when the evidence around you was saying, "Stop, rest. There is nothing here for you." It is in the record, my child. Every act of integrity that no one witnessed. Every moment you chose the harder thing because it was the right thing when the easier thing was available, and no one would have known the difference. It is in the record. The record does not lie, beloved. The record does not forget. The record does not require you to advocate for yourself, because the evidence in it is complete without your voice. Every faithful thing you have ever done is documented in the detail that only I can keep, and the record shows something that the rooms you were excluded from would not have expected to see. It shows a person who did not break, who bent, yes, who wobbled, yes, who came close to the edge of what they could carry more times than once, but did not break, my child. And that refusal to break in the seasons that were specifically designed to break you, that is what the record holds as its most important entry. I see everything you have endured, beloved. I was present in every room you walked into where the temperature had already changed before you arrived. I was there in the conversations that stopped just slightly too quickly when you entered. I was there in the invitations that did not come, in the messages that went unanswered, in the warmth that was present in a slightly smaller measure than before, without anyone being able to explain exactly why I saw it. All of it. Every moment that had no visible witness had me as its witness. And what I witnessed is not what was reported. This is where I am going to speak in the plain language I promised you, my child. Because what happened to you was not the natural consequence of something you did wrong. What happened to you was the result of something you did right. Your calling made you visible, beloved. Your gifts made you a presence in rooms that could not be neutral about you. People who are walking in lesser authority do not know how to be comfortable next to someone who is walking in their full assignment. They feel the weight of what you carry and they do not have language for it. So they respond to it in the ways that smaller things respond to larger things. They try to reduce the larger thing to their own size. They try to get the room to see what they see, which is a threat, rather than what I see, which is a gift, my child. They went to work on your reputation before you had any idea there was a campaign, my beloved. They used the language of love and concern. They used the posture of someone who reluctantly had to share something they wished they did not know. They spoke your name in rooms you were not in, and they shaped what was said with the care of someone who understood that framing matters more than facts when you are trying to move a room's opinion. They built a portrait of you using real paint but a false canvas. And by the time you walked into those rooms, my child, the portrait was already hanging on the wall. But here is what they miscalculated, beloved. They could move rooms that were maintained by human opinion. They could not touch the room that I maintain. And the room I maintain is the one where your purpose lives. The room where your assignment is filed. The room where what was written for you before the foundation of the world is kept, with your name on it, in a script that no one else's voice can overwrite. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment I will condemn. That is the heritage of those who serve me, Isaiah 54:17, not a wish, not an encouragement, a law written into the order of things. Every word spoken against you in those rooms already met this law, and the law is what stands. Now I am going to tell you what I said when I said enough, my child, because there was a moment. There was a precise moment when I looked at what was being built against you, and I said enough, not in anger, in authority. The way a judge says order in a courtroom, not because they are frustrated, but because they hold the gavel and the room belongs to them. I said enough the way a surgeon decides the procedure is complete, with a precision that comes from knowing exactly what needs to happen next, and having the full picture that the patient cannot yet see. I said enough, my beloved, and what that word released was not punishment against those who had worked against you. What it released was a movement in the invisible architecture of your life that would produce visible results you are already beginning to see. The discernment you have been carrying, beloved, the ability to sense what a room is doing before anyone speaks a word, the awareness of the gap between what someone presents and what they are actually carrying, that discernment has not been a burden. It has been a gift that was sharpened by the very trials that were designed to discourage you. The fire does not destroy what is gold. The fire removes what is not. And what the fire of that season removed from you is something I want you to name. It removed your capacity to trust the wrong rooms. It removed the part of you that was willing to offer access to people who had not demonstrated they could hold what you carry. It removed the naive openness that left you vulnerable to the kind of person who uses sacred spaces to gather intelligence rather than to worship. You are not less open than you were before, my child. You are more discerning about where you open. And that is not a wound. That is a weapon type. This elevation is mine. If you receive the truth that what you endured was not wasted, but refined, because you stayed this far, my beloved, what I release now is not available to those who turned away. The ones who opened this and left early, the ones who skimmed past without stopping, they received what they were ready to receive, but you stayed. And what is released for those who stay is something specific, not a general blessing. A specific one calibrated to the exact weight you have been carrying and the exact elevation that was prepared for your next season. I am not offering you a vague upgrade, my child. I am offering you a precise movement from where you have been to where you were always meant to be. And the precision of it, the specificity of it requires that you receive it with your full attention. The people who misread your silence as weakness, I have a word for them, not a word of condemnation, because I do not speak to the chosen in the language of enemies. I speak to you about them only so that you understand what is already in motion. Those who looked at your restraint and called it retreat, those who watched you choose not to fight the way that was available to you and decided that meant you had nothing real to say. Those who built systems of influence over you, small ones and large ones, that were designed to keep the ceiling low enough that the size of what you carry would never be visible to the rooms that were meant to receive it. I have already begun dismantling what they built, my child, not with drama. Not in the way that produces the kind of confrontation that looks satisfying, but creates more mess than it resolves. I am dismantling it the way I always dismantle the things built against my chosen ones, quietly, completely, and in a way that produces witnesses they cannot argue with. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. That is not a threat I am making, beloved. That is a law already in motion. The pattern of what was done does not stay hidden forever. Patterns repeat until they become visible, and when they repeat in the presence of someone who has no reason to protect the narrative that was built, they expose themselves. I have placed the right witnesses in the right positions at precisely the right time. Not witnesses you recruited, not witnesses who owe you something. Witnesses whose testimony is credible exactly because they came forward of their own decision, because what they saw was undeniable, and because the time arrived when holding their silence cost more than releasing it. My child, the justice you have been waiting for does not require your effort. Let me say that in the plainest language I have for it, you do not need to present your case. You do not need to find the moment to share your version with the people who were influenced against you. You do not need to wait for the apology in order to be free. I am producing the vindication through mechanisms that do not require your voice, because your voice was never the problem. And your voice does not need to be the solution. What was done in secret is being revealed through the patience of its own pattern, and what that pattern reveals cannot be argued with, because it was not produced by you, beloved. Drop what you have been carrying in the name of defending yourself. You can put it down. It was heavy, and it was never yours to carry. Type I release what was never mine to carry. If you are ready to put down the weight of a verdict you were never supposed to be responsible for producing. Now I need you to understand what I mean when I say I said enough, my child. Because enough is not just a stopping word, it is also a starting word. When I said enough to the season of interference, I was not only shutting a door, I was opening one. And the one that opened is the one that leads into the new level, not a slightly better version of what you have been living. A genuinely new level, a level at which the rules that governed the last season no longer apply, a level at which the ceilings that were maintained over you by the will of other people simply do not exist. because the room you are entering is not governed by their will. It is governed by mine. I want to speak a moment into the altars you have built on behalf of someone else. Beloved, if your heart is carrying the name of a person right now, someone who needs to hear what you have received in this message, someone who is sitting in the weight that you recognize because you carried it yourself, I want to invite you to sow a seed in their name into this ministry, not because you owe it, not because of what it returns to you, because a seed sown in faith for someone you love is one of the most sacred acts a chosen one can offer. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. In the name of the Father, a seed sown for the one whose name is on your heart is a declaration that you believe what I say about them, even when they cannot yet believe it for themselves. Because you have stayed through this far, my child, there is something I am releasing specifically into this moment that was held in reserve for those who did not turn away. Not everyone will receive what comes next. The ones who were not ready to stay were not ready to receive it. But you stayed, and so I release it now into this exact moment, into the specific space between where you have been and where you are going. The resilience that was built into you through the fire of that season is not the resilience of someone who survived. My child, it is the resilience of someone who was forged. There is a difference between surviving a fire and being changed by it into something that can no longer be destroyed by fire. The person who entered that season could have been broken by what happened. The person who came out of it cannot be, my beloved. Not because you are harder, not because you have closed off, but because the deepest place in you, the place where your identity lives, was tested in the specific way that was designed to break it. And it did not break, beloved, and that is permanent. What the fire could not take is yours to keep, and no future fire will take it either, because you already know what it feels like to be in the middle of it and come out with your calling intact. My child, I need to speak about what your presence does in a room, because you have been trained by the wrong season to underestimate it. You walk into a room and something shifts. You have felt this, not always in a way that was comfortable, because the shift was not always welcomed by everyone in the room. But the shift happens, beloved. People who are paying attention, the ones whose spirits are awake to what is moving, they notice when you arrive. Something in the atmosphere changes. Not because you try to produce that effect, because you cannot help it. The anointing on your life does not go quiet when you decide to be quiet. It does not reduce itself because you have decided to stay in the background. It moves ahead of you into every room you enter. And what it does there is rearrange what was already settled. I did not put this in you so that you could sit in the back of rooms and distribute it in careful portions, my child. I put this in you so that when you walk in, fully, without apology, without the performance of smallness, the room receives what it was designed to receive from your presence. Beloved, the people who are meant to be moved by what you carry will be moved. The people who are meant to be connected to your purpose by being in your space will find themselves drawn toward you without fully understanding why. And the people who built systems to prevent this from happening will find that those systems have lost their power. My child, because the power they had was always borrowed from your agreement with them. And you are withdrawing that agreement now. Type: the season of smallness is over. If you receive the truth that you were never meant to stay in the background of rooms that were designed for your voice, the provision that is aligning with your next season is not coming in the form you may have been waiting for, my child. I want to set that expectation correctly, because I do not want what I am sending to pass unrecognized, because it arrived in an unfamiliar form. The resources are already moving. The doors are already opening. The people who are meant to carry something forward with you are already being positioned. But the form this is taking is specific to the level you are entering, and that level operates differently than the one you are leaving. In the level you are leaving, resources came through systems that were controlled by people whose approval you had to earn. In the level you are entering, beloved, resources come through alignment. They come when the right people encounter the right version of you, which is the full version, not the rationed one. They come when you are in the right rooms, which are not the rooms that required you to shrink to enter them. They come when your presence is recognized by the ones I have sent to recognize it. And that recognition, when it comes, will feel familiar in a way you cannot explain, because I prepared them for you and prepared you for them at the same time. The path is being made clear as you move, my beloved. That is not a promise that the path will feel clear before you take the step. The clarity comes in the motion. The door does not fully appear until you are close enough that opening it is the obvious next thing. I do not show you the whole staircase. I show you the next step, and the next step is to move forward from this moment with the full understanding that the season that was designed to contain you has ended. Every door that opens from this point does not require you to first convince anyone that you belong there. It requires only that you recognize that you do, my child. I want to speak one sentence directly to the version of you that almost gave up in the worst moment of the worst season. The version of you that sat in the dark, not dramatically but quietly, and wondered if what you were carrying was real or imagined, if you had been wrong about all of it. If the calling you felt was something you had constructed out of need rather than received from me. I want to say this to that version of you, beloved. I have never once confused you with someone smaller than what you are. Type I agree with what God says about me if you choose, in this moment, to receive the identity that heaven has always spoken over you rather than the one that was built for you by rooms that could not hold your weight. My child, you are entering something that cannot be undone. The elevation I am speaking over you is not conditional on what the people who worked against you decide to do next. It is not waiting for their acknowledgement. It is not dependent on the apology that may or may not come. What I have spoken over your life does not require human ratification in order to stand. It stands because I spoke it, and what I speak does not return to me empty. The declaration that has gone out over your future is already producing its effect in the invisible architecture of what is coming. What you will see in the natural in the days and weeks ahead is the visible evidence of what has already been moved in the invisible. The influence you carry is not something you will have to fight to establish in the new rooms, my beloved. It will arrive before you do, in the same way it always has, except now you will not be walking into rooms that were designed to neutralize it. The rooms you are entering were designed to amplify it, and when something that has been compressed is suddenly released into a space that has room for its full expansion, what happens is not a subtle increase. It is a release, and what releases in you when you stop carrying the weight of that compressed season will be visible, not just to you, to every room you walk into from this point forward. The resources, the people, the opportunities, the provision that is arriving, all of it is coming through paths that feel strangely frictionless compared to what you have been accustomed to. This is because the friction you experienced was not inherent to your journey, my child. It was interference. And when interference is removed, the movement of what was always meant to move is no longer labored. It simply moves. You may notice this first in small things. An email that arrives at the exact moment you were thinking about the person who sent it. A conversation that opens a door you had no reason to expect to open. A connection that should have required months of navigation that resolves itself in a single meeting. These are not coincidences. These are the natural results of a path that has been cleared, beloved. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. My child, that verse was not written as comfort for the waiting season, though it has served that purpose in your life. It was written as a declaration about the plans that were never canceled, the plans that were never suspended, the plans that operated in the background of every season that looked like suspension, continuing their work in the invisible, moving pieces you could not yet see toward an outcome that was never in question. I have known the plans from before you were born. I have known them. And none of what happened to you in the difficult season altered those plans. It was absorbed into them, used by them. The interference was always going to be factored into the restoration. My beloved type, I receive this now. If you choose to open your hands in this moment and receive what was always being prepared for you, because you did not skip, my child, because you stayed when everything in the digital world was pulling for your attention, and you chose to remain here in this stillness. With this word, I want you to know that what was sealed has been opened specifically for you in this moment. The ones who pressed through to this part of this message are not a random group. They are the ones whose spirits were hungry enough, whose faith was activated enough, whose readiness was genuine enough to stay this far. And because you are one of them, what comes next in the days ahead has already been prepared in measure that corresponds to the faithfulness it took to remain. What was blocked is unblocked. My child, what was sealed is open. What was held in waiting is released, not as a future hope, as a present reality. Beloved, the elevation I am declaring over you is already done in the realm where things are decided before they are visible. What you will see in the natural is catching up to what I have already declared, my child. Psalm 23:5 says, I prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. My beloved, the people who work to remove you from the room are going to watch you be seated at the table they tried to keep you from. Not because you demanded a seat, not because you fought your way in, because I prepared it. Because the chair with your name on it was always there, and the season of standing outside was always temporary. The table was prepared before the opposition began, and it will be occupied after the opposition has run its course, which it has. In the next 48 hours, my child, the enemy will make an attempt to plant a seed of doubt about what you have received today. Your phone may ring with a discouraging voice. A circumstance may present itself that looks like the old pattern reasserting itself. A thought may arrive that says this was just words. Nothing has actually changed. Look at the evidence around you. I need you to receive this warning as love and not as fear, beloved. If that happens, and it may, do not be afraid. That is not a sign that what you received today was wrong. That is confirmation that it was right. Because the enemy does not work to undermine what does not matter. The intensity of the opposition that follows a true word is always proportional to the truth that was received. If they push back in the next 48 hours, let that be your sign that today was real. Because you did not skip this message, my child, because you stayed when you could have kept scrolling, there is something I want to release specifically into the next season of your life. You have done the hard work, the unseeable work, the work that no one was clapping for, the work that did not produce immediate visible fruit and required a faith that was sometimes thin and sometimes thick, but was always present in some form. Heaven witnessed all of it, beloved, and what you are stepping into is not a reward that lives separate from what you built in the difficult season. It is the full expression of what was always growing underground, while the surface showed nothing. Roots built during drought produce the growth that sustains through abundance. What was built in you underground is about to become visible. Isaiah 60:1 says, Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. This is the moment, my child, not a future moment. This moment, beloved, the light that was yours has arrived. The glory that was spoken over your life before the world was formed is rising now, my child. You do not have to manufacture it. You do not have to announce it. Rise, and it will show. Type, it is already done. If you receive the truth that your elevation is not coming, it has already been declared, and what you see in the days ahead is only the visible catching up to what has already been decided. My child, before I close, I want to speak to the weight you may still be holding without realizing it, the weight of loss, of time spent in the wrong season, of relationships that did not survive the passage through the fire, of doors that closed and were not reopened. I know you have not fully set that weight down, my beloved. I know part of you is still holding it, not because you want to, but because you are not yet fully convinced that what is coming is enough to make the account whole, my child. Let me tell you what the account looks like from where I stand. Romans 8:31 says, If God is for you, who can be against you? Not who will try, who can succeed. There is not a person, a pattern, a system, a narrative, a room, a report, or a decision that was made in your absence that can stand against what I have spoken over your life, my child. What was spoken against you in the rooms you were not in has already met the word that was spoken over your life before you were born, beloved, and the word that endures is mine. The restoration that is coming is not partial. My beloved, what was delayed is not gone. What was held back is not lost. It was preserved, my child. Every year of faithful service that produced no visible recognition is in the record, and the record does not leave accounts unsettled. The provision that was blocked during the years of interference is being rerouted, beloved. The connections that could not form naturally during the season of opposition are being formed now through paths that do not require you to navigate the systems that tried to block you. The access that was withheld is being granted through doors that do not belong to the people who withheld it, my child. Walk forward, my child, not looking behind you, not waiting for the room that hurt you to acknowledge what it owed you, not holding your breath for a vindication that requires their participation before you can move. Walk forward because what is ahead of you does not require their acknowledgement in order to materialize, my beloved. The doors opening are not opening because someone corrected the story in the room where it was told. My child, they are opening because the one who holds the keys is operating on a different record entirely, and that record has your name on it. Marked faithful, marked called, marked mine. You are not what was said about you. You are not the portrait that was painted in the rooms you were not in. You are not defined by the season that was designed to break you. You are what I said about you before you took your first breath. And what I said was this: chosen, marked, called, sent, irreplaceable, uncontainable, mine. That is the identity that has your name on it in the permanent record, my child. That is the declaration that was spoken before the opposition had a single syllable to offer. And that declaration is the one that endures. Walk into the new level, my child. It was always waiting for you. And when you walk in, my beloved, do not walk in with your eyes cast down, watching for the places you might fail, watching for the signs that this is too good to be real, watching for the other shoe you have been conditioned to believe will always drop. Walk in the way someone walks into a room that has their name on it, not arrogantly, not demanding anything from anyone, but with the settled certainty of someone who knows the address was written for them before they were old enough to read. That is the posture that belongs to you now, my child, not earned by your performance in this new season, already given to you by the one who sent you into it, in the name of the Lord. If these words have confirmed what your spirit has known but your mind was afraid to fully receive, if something in you has loosened in the last hour that has been tight for longer than you can remember, consider sowing a seed into this ministry, beloved, not for what it returns to you. For the person whose name came to your heart while you were listening, for the chosen one who is sitting right now in the middle of the season you just came out of, who needs to hear that there is a new level on the other side of the fire. Every gift sown into ground that speaks truth over chosen ones goes out multiplied into the ears and hearts and spirits of the ones who most need it. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. In the name of the Most High, what you sow in faith is never lost. My child, let me close by saying this over you as a declaration that cannot be taken back once it is spoken. The reset is real, my child. The elevation is done. What was blocked has been unblocked, and what was held has been released. The season of survival is over, and the season of purpose has begun. The rooms that were not ready for you are behind you, and the rooms that were prepared for you are ahead of you, beloved. The people who misread your silence will watch you move in a voice they did not predict, my beloved. The resources that were redirected are being rerouted to their rightful destination, which is your calling, my child. The connections that were interfered with are being restored through paths that bear no resemblance to the systems that tried to cut them off. You are not the sum of what was said about you, my child. You are the sum of what I said about you, beloved. And what I say about you, I say now with authority that no human word can override. You are mine. You are marked. You are called. You are elevated, my child, and what I have declared cannot be undone by anything that moves in any room on this earth. Walk forward in the name of the Most High, my child. The new level is not coming. You are already in it. Amen. Narrator, if you are watching this and you feel the weight of a season that has been trying to break you, I want you to know that you found this message for a reason. The person whose name is on your heart right now, the one you thought of somewhere in the middle of this word, they need to hear it too. Consider sowing a seed today, not for yourself, but for them, for the one who does not yet know their season is ending and their new level is already declared. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed sown for a chosen one who does not yet know they are chosen is the most faithful act of love you can offer. God honors it. In the name of the Most High, go in peace.